going to move away from the sort of surveillance issue, because what I wanted to talk about today, or the knowledge I've got, is based on the points-based system, especially on Tier 1 and Tier 2 of that, which is now being capped. An interim cap at the moment, moving to a more lengthy cap, obviously, to come. But firstly, I wanted to talk about the fact that obviously that I am a UKVA worker, as the publicity material states. I've worked there for about 12 years. I'm doing this speech on behalf of PCS today, so hopefully this film won't be used in my disciplinary hearing next week. But, yeah, obviously I worked there for 12 years. I worked in all different parts. I don't actually work in the part that deals with the points-based immigration system, so I don't have an absolute in-depth knowledge on it. I have actually written a paper though for PCS, which fell into the Migration Advisory Committee, which went to the Home Affairs Select Committee to ask some questions about that. So I've got a bit of background knowledge on it now. Obviously, I'm a rep for PCS as well. I'm a volunteer rep. I don't get paid by PCS to do it. I do it out of the goodness of my own heart and because I believe in it, really. Now, PCS are a civil service trade union. We represent about 270,000 members, and we look after Home Office, museums, revenue and customs, all them sort of places. So we've got quite a wide range of coverage of government departments, and I currently sit on the Home Office General Executive Committee, which I've been tasked to look after managed migration, which is part of the temporary migration, which is the points-based system. Now, what obviously I want to talk about is Tier 1 and Tier 2. Now, Tier 1 is the route for highly skilled migrants, and Tier 2 is those for being sponsored by UK businesses. And of course, we should remember that the limits that they're looking to bring in only affect non-EU migrants wishing to come to the country, because obviously we're in the A8 and anyone can come from Europe into the country, so we're not talking about them. So we're talking about a very specific number of people. Now, firstly, I think it would be important to address what happened in a political context before the election. Now, we know that David Cameron was asked on a number of occasions what this cap would be numerically. Time and time again he was asked, never came up with an actual figure on this cap. Now, we all know what happened. We had the TV debates, and we had our now Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, asking David Cameron on live TV about the question of immigration and the question of the cap. Very interesting quote from Nick Clegg. He says to David Cameron, "You're proposing a cap, but you don't know what the cap would be." And then he went on to say, "All I'm saying in this immigration debate, it's difficult. None of us have got the perfect answers, but let's at least not pretend that we can put forward ideas which have got no substance and haven't been thought through." So we fast forward a couple of months on now, and we have a coalition government, the very same Nick Clegg trying to put through the exact same policy he questioned at that particular moment, but at least he never signed a pledge on it anyway to say, because we all know what them pledges are like. I hear they're very soft, strong and tremendously absorbent. We had the UKVA website then, just sort of moving on from that, which highlighted the migration cap and the fact that they wanted to get everyone involved in this. We want to know your thoughts. The government's are very good at doing this. They want to know our thoughts on it, so they can pick the ones that they really like and whatever is in their political agenda to take forward. But the website, which is, it's quite interesting, the terminology that was used by the government, because what they actually said is the government believes that Britain can benefit from migration, but not uncontrolled migration. It wants to continue to attract the best and the brightest people to the UK, but with control on the numbers coming here. And this is the very interesting bit. Unlimited migration place unacceptable pressures on our public services, school places and the provision of housing, causing problems for certain local communities. Now, PCS will always welcome the consultation. That's not a problem. We'll always feed into that, whether it's valid or not, with regard to whether they take them ideas forward. We'll always feed in. And, the fact that the consultation paper that was published didn't ask the question, do people actually agree with the cap on migration? It was worded in a very particular way, a very clever way as usual by the government in how they phrase these things, but the consultation paper clearly stated it was focusing on people outside of the EEA. It's squarely linked the social problems such as the lack of housing, overcrowded schools, the competition for jobs and access to the National Health Service, with immigration from external EEA migration as well. So it made that link. Now, it also proposed to cut immigration back to what it was in the 1990s, to the tens of thousands rather than the hundreds of thousands. The broad ethos that uncontrolled migration has led to a threat to social cohesion, because it is perceived that immigrants are taking British jobs and using public services over and above what they're entitled to. I mean, it's absolutely rubbish. It's an argument that's been used since the 1950s in different guises and stuff, and it's politically motivated as well. Missing from this discourse as well is the fact that these migrants have been invited to work in the UK because of the UK skills shortages in sectors such as the NHS, sectors such as the IT industry, because we haven't got the people to plug them gaps. Now, and also what the paper missed out was the fact that we actually need more younger people to come to this country, because we've got an ageing population. You know, these people will go into these jobs, you know, in social care, in the NHS, and will eventually look after us, you know, when we're older. Whilst government policies have introduced some initiatives as well, such as the lifelong learning for existing workers, and increase the capacity for people to attend universities as a means of beginning the process to produce a highly educated, highly skilled workforce. Employers constantly complain about them gaps I was talking about the fact that we can't fill all our IT jobs and we don't have these skills. So what seems to be missing from this government strategy is an integrated approach between the government and employers as to what education systems need to embrace in order to enhance the skills of workers. It seems somewhat of an anomaly whereby so-called developing countries are struggling under the yoke of debt, are able to produce these workers to fit in with our UK labour force, when the UK is unable to produce these workers in the first place. Now, it's important to recognise that migration is a permanent component of capitalism and globalisation. If the UK makes arbitrary, irrational decisions to reduce the number of highly skilled workers in this country, it could result in companies simply going somewhere else, going to the United States, going to India, Pakistan, and basing themselves there rather than in the UK, and that obviously has wider economic impacts in the UK. The PCS position on this is absolutely clear. We oppose this cap in all its forms. We oppose it because the statistics based on who comes to this country under Tier 1 and Tier 2 actually contribute to this economy and actually bring skills and fill the jobs, you know, that we can't. So we oppose it on that level, and also we oppose it because it's going to have an effect on our members as well, who have to administer this work, because you start capping the immigration Tier 1 and Tier 2, that means our work stops at any time in the year, whether that's halfway through the year, 6 months into it, we've got a cap, we stop, and that is it. We have got no jobs for these people, and these people will lose their jobs. Now, most of this work's done in Sheffield, so Nick Clegg's constituency, of course. We've got about 1,500 people who work there. We have roughly 150 people working on PBIS at the moment, Tier 1 and Tier 2. So if we lose these jobs in that city, we're going to have a knock-on impact into that local economy as well. So that's why we're trying to oppose this as best as possible, because at the end of the day, it is our members' job. So I hope I've sort of give you a bit of a broad picture on the CAP and a little bit of context to it, and most importantly, our position on the matter, which is to oppose it. Thanks